All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Adventure One podcast. I am sitting here with my buddy Kyle. It is like friggin' midnight.
Yes, it is.
We're sitting here, got
Friday
some Texas straight bourbon whiskey in front of me and some red wine in front of Kyle.
Yep.
And so
got a Cab Sav over here, 2017. It's
there
good
you
stuff.
go. There you go.
Yep.
And so we're just here telling hunting stories. So I'm about to head west for another hunt this weekend, and Kyle was gracious enough to say, "Hey, you're headed this way. Crash at my place. Take an hour off your trip." So I appreciate that a lot, and it's a good chance to just hang out and tell stories. So I think the story that we specifically want to talk about tonight is your hunt last weekend.
Yes.
So not your first. Well, I guess technically you did one other archery hunt before this, since you've kind of gotten bit by the bug and been a bow hunter.
Yep.
But this is your first time to shoot at an animal.
No. It is not my first time
you're
to
right.
shoot
You're
an
right.
animal. I shot
first
at
time
the
to
hog.
shoot at a deer.
Yes, so I've shot at a hog before with the bow.
Yep.
So I've been shooting the bow for, I don't know, not that long, 2.5 months.
Yeah, as I say, we can still measure it in weeks.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the baby talk. Isn't like we go from weeks to months to years, and then if you're still talking months, you're an idiot. So, it's been about 2.5 months that I've been shooting the bow, which is not a lot of time in the bow world. Any experienced bow hunters out there know that. If you haven't hunted with a bow yet and you enjoy hunting, I would advise it. It's awesome. It's really cool to get into that world of like Pliny gave me the itch a couple of years ago, but it just, I've got little kids and it was just like, I knew it was going to be time consuming. And then moving to where I am now actually helped out a lot because I can go down the hill to one of my neighbors' houses and we can practice with the bow, and it doesn't really take a whole lot of time out of the day. The kids can come with me and hang out at their house, and so it's kind of nice.
Well, and you can't exactly do that with the 270 either.
Exactly, yes. So, going out to practice with the rifle. But I will say, it is important to get rifle practice in. Archery is different. It's a different animal. I can go out, twice a year and make sure the rifle's sighted in and work on, like how I'm squeezing the trigger and things like that. But it's not the same as standing up, holding a bow in one arm, pulling, string back in the other arm, and like being accurate at so many distances. And the distances make such a huge difference compared to a 270 where you're like, oh, it looks good at 50 yards. All right, well, it's only an inch different at 100 yards, and we're back on at 200 yards. It's like, you don't have to worry about all that stuff, where in archery it's like each pin is like so different, and then you're going in between pins, and it's a huge difference. And found that out with a hog. Yeah.
One, I think it's a difference of so one is kind of like a mechanical competency, I guess. Like you're making sure the equipment is all still good and that you're using it correctly.
Yes.
Versus archery is more of a fitness endeavor. Yeah. I don't consider myself to be any real athlete. I got skinny little chicken arms, but if you don't use it, you lose it. Mm-hmm. And the more you practice, like you start building on the last time you practiced.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anybody's like a swimmer and diver, think of form and like how important that form is. It's like, it doesn't matter how fit you are. You could have like the most fit athlete in the world, and then like a good swimmer with great form will beat you in a swimming competition. So like that, I feel like that's the same with archery. It's like, if you have great form in archery and you've practiced it enough, like I feel like that trumps that fitness side to it. Obviously you need fitness because you're pulling back a certain weight, but and how long can you hold it and things like that. And so like you've got to have strength, but if you don't have form, it's all trash.
You can't just overpower it.
Yeah.
Without practice.
Well, I got all these muscles, so I can shoot an arrow. Amazing,
Well, and what's funny is, we'd shoot shots at, I think so far, most of my whitetail shots, 22, 25, 27, 30 maybe is my longest.
I haven't shot beyond 25 at an animal, but I've only shot at 3 animals.
So. But we practice out to 40 just because we want to be sure that we can put it where we need to when it counts.
Yeah, you can think about that with any athlete. I mean, if you have somebody training for the 100-yard dash, they're going to sprint 150 yards.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't train for the 100-yard dash and run 70 at practice every day.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's like you run beyond it, so you're running through the finish line. It's like I want to be accurate at 40, so when I shoot at 25, I'm like, no, I know I can hit 25.
Except,
like, that's not even...
except like there's like ultra marathon people who are like, it's literally so far that I would be tearing myself apart if I regularly practice that. So they don't regularly practice. But that's a different animal. That's not how we're bow hunting.
Yes, exactly. I'm not doing ultra marathon bow hunting at 120 yards or something, which would be dumb.
So anyway, Daniel and I were going out to a spot that Kyle's done a lot of work on this piece of property, this permission place. And we're seeing deer there. And so we went out there, and that was the very last podcast that I just posted. Actually, the day that we're recording this, I just posted it. Went out there, and we were talking to Kyle. We're like, hey, we're going out there if you're coming out. And you're like, well, maybe I got this other thing going. Yeah. So I may not be there.
Yeah. So my father-in-law actually set something up for me, and he was talking to one of his friends. But nothing was finalized. So I was telling, Pliny and Daniel, I was like, I'm going with you guys unless this goes through. If this goes through, I'm taking the opportunity because this is...
Sorry, losers.
Exactly. Like, it's a great opportunity, which in my world, this is like amazing opportunity because I am I say it probably on every one of these podcasts that I'm an opportunistic hunter and I'm a meat hunter. And like, those are the first two things. And then it's a bonus if I can like shoot a big buck or something like that, like some kind of trophy or something, like cool. Like, but first and foremost, like if somebody gives me an opportunity to go get some meat, I'm going to go do it.
I was going to say, more than anybody I know, you view it as like, yeah, I'm going to hunt for the meat. Like if it's got antlers, cool. Exactly. If it's got big antlers, double cool. Even cooler. But I mean, the meat's why I'm there.
It's like, do you know how often I talk about how many deer I had in my freezer last year over the 2 big bucks that I shot last year?
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Like, they're like, I don't even. So I was talking to a guy last weekend, this guy that I ended up getting the opportunity going down his property. And that's what, like, I don't even know if I mentioned that, like, I shot, a decent sized axis and a 10-point buck last year. What I told him was, well, I had 5 deer in the freezer last year and they're pretty much all gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to fill that freezer back. I'm like, that was my concern. I wasn't like, I need to get another big buck. Like, I not once did I say it.
Well,
like,
and
that crossed my mind, really.
What I really appreciate about that is I think there's this, in my mind, it's a cardinal sin of people who have deer meat that sits in a freezer for like 2-3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Then it gets freezer burned.
Yeah, they end up checking it or whatever. Yeah.
Like, that's no different than just shooting an animal and letting it lay out in the field, except you still got to work your ass off at some point to process it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I really appreciate that you view the meat like in the way that you do.
Yeah.
That you use every bit of it that you can, and your boys eat it, and y'all love it. And, and man, I feel like I'm the same way, but I feel like you absolutely are all that.
You showed up tonight, and what did we eat?
Yeah, dude. Like, I walked in the door, and you're like, have some deer heart. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, that was my first deer heart ever to clean and cook and everything. And
well done. Well, not well done, but prepared finely.
Yes.
It tasted very good.
Yes, didn't overcook it, which is good. Is pretty
still pink in the middle, and you either aged it or brined it for about a week. I guess tell me about what did you do there?
It was just exactly ice cooler.
Okay,
it just sat with the rest.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, just literally let it leach out in ice water.
And then today I put it in salt water.
Okay. Because I've heard people talk about kind of that
it.
like minerally or almost metallic taste, and I think that's just blood. You know, blood's high in iron.
When I first got it out, I took a hose to it. There's a hose there,
Yeah.
because it was full of blood clots.
Yeah. Oh,
which
okay.
we'll talk about later.
So you just kind of force that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clean that out. So, and I think that pushed a lot of the blood out of it in the
Well,
first place. And
dude,
then
if you can keep preparing them like you did this one,
yeah.
I think it's worth lifting that rib and reaching in there
Exactly.
and pulling that joker out because that thing was awesome.
I need to just make sure I've got loppers with me every time because
How to cut the rib?
Yep, when you go gutless, loppers just like make it so much easier. You just like, I know right where it is now, and I can just pop out 2 or 3 ribs, and I'll take a chunk here, take a chunk up top, closer to the back, and it just like makes a little door. You just like reach your hand in the door, pull the heart out.
I was pretty impressed the first time that we did. It was up in Michigan.
Yeah. And I was like right there, and we did it. We were like, yep, there it is.
We just like
totally luck.
made a little like inspection port and just reached in there, fished around.
It was right there.
Aha!
Old Indiana Jones style.
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. But well, that's my hope. Is I'm going out tomorrow, and my first deer that I got this year, I think I probably shot the heart, and so I was like, yeah, I shot the heart. I'm not going to dig in there, and then more it was just out of laziness than anything else. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I had driven down that day, hunted,
it's exhausting,
waited very stressfully to find that deer, which turned out being pretty unnecessary, but I was still, I don't know, a little bit exasperated there. Found the deer, brought it back, and it was like probably 11 o'clock at night by the time I cleaned it. And so at that point, I'm like, I did everything gutless. Am I getting in there, or am I just dumping it? I dumped it. Probably shouldn't have, but if I get a chance to salvage another heart, I think I should.
All right. Well, so I ended up not going with Pliny and Daniel on their hunt last weekend. You listened to last podcast. I was not there. I ditched them. So I had an opportunity. A landowner has a amazingly well-managed property, and he's got cattle on it, but the cattle on it are there for the tax purposes, I would say.
What property in Texas doesn't have cattle on it?
Yeah.
Like, I've never hunted a property in Texas over 100 acres that doesn't have cattle.
Here's the thing. This property, like, he moved the cattle purposefully for deer management.
Ah, so you know what it's really for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, others, like, they'll have them there, and it's most ranchers that are just, like, they're owning land to just, like, hold up the land and maintain it.
They hold off the land, they pay the taxes with the cattle, and then the deer hunters are a bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of the opposite of
Yes, this is the opposite. He's like, he is a deer hunter. He manages the land for wild game. Deer, duck, and when I say turkey, the turkey's not for hunting. The turkey is for show for him. He just has turkeys everywhere.
He just likes seeing them.
Yep. And he just, and I'm like, so you're just like giving them corn all the time? He's like, yep. He's like, I don't care. I'll keep feeding those feeders all the time just for these turkeys to run around, and I can see them when I'm driving around the property. They're like his pets that just like run around, and they'll just like, I have videos of them like 20 yards away from the truck just standing there looking at you. And he said, because he usually doesn't let anybody hunt turkey, and they're like, somebody's asked him, well, why not? And he said, because it'd be too easy to hunt them. And he just doesn't see it like it wouldn't be fun. And so somebody asked him last year, he's like, but what if I bow hunted them? And he said, okay. And the guy went out one morning, he shot 2 big toms with the bow, came back with these 2 big toms, and he's like, yep, not turkey hunting.
Wow.
And he's just like, if you can walk out on my property, kill 2 big toms the first morning with a bow, in his mind, it's not hunting to him. So he's just like, they're just pets that I feed, and they run around.
I kind of appreciate and applaud him for that. I mean, it's a tough stance to take from a conservation standpoint. It's cool because he's just building a flock.
Oh, for sure. There are hundreds of turkeys on his property.
Wow.
I'm not joking.
Wow.
They were everywhere. Every time we turned to a new spot because we went around and went to all his feeders. He's got 8 feeders on the property, and I think we saw 3 or 4 flocks, and each flock had minimum 20 birds in it.
Goodness.
So, and they just kind of like, they'd kind of half jog away from the truck as you're like barreling down the trail, you know?
Yeah. But they know where their food comes from.
Yeah, exactly. And they'd be looking at you, and they'd stop under the tree, you know, in shade or whatever, and look at you, and then just kind of like trot along next to the truck for a little while and then run away or whatever.
Well, as somebody who has struggled with turkey hunting quite a bit,
I know.
I'm like, man,
I know.
it'd be cool to just get in there and
Exactly.
kill one. But the idea of like just maintaining the ethics and the sportsmanship of
Yes.
it, like props to him though,
Yeah,
because that's probably
Yeah.
a hard call to make.
Yes.
and good for
Yes.
him. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I appreciated that because I would have like thought he was kind of crazy if we didn't like drive around the property and like see a bunch of turkeys just like hanging out and running around and hear them squawking and, you know, hear them gobbling in the morning and stuff. And I was like, no, this is cool. Like just turkeys all over the place.
Yeah,
Like it's pretty awesome.
Let him be.
Yes. So, so that was really cool just to like see turkeys hanging out. Saw some quail, bumped a couple covey of quail, which is like for me,
Bob White's, I assume.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And for me, like that's kind of where I'm at with quail. Like if I was somewhere where there's an abundance of quail, I think a quail hunt would be fun. But like that's a bird like I've come to like just appreciate seeing.
The last time I was out, again, at this place, you weren't there with us, but
Yep.
we've seen the decline of the quail there.
Yep.
I saw 2 Bob Whites run across the road, and I'm
Yeah.
like, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And then I saw 2 Cooper's Hawks flying over the same field. I'm like, don't
Yep.
you do it.
Yep, exactly. So like that's a bird that's like the biggest sissy bird in the world. Like I'd just say like
Yeah.
just a bunch of pansies, and they only live to like what 2 years old or something like
Yeah,
that
they're-
at most.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you do see them surviving or thriving, I'm like, yeah, like that's so cool.
Good for you.
Yeah, like that's awesome. Did you see that whole flock over there? So that's one that like I would feel like that way with the turkey. If I had quail on my property, I'd just be like, leave them alone.
Yeah.
I just want to see them like flutter off every time I turn a corner.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
That's cool.
That's one that I would feel that way about. But so this guy manages his property for deer really well. Has really high standards. There's not a whole lot of pressure around his property. He knows the landowners around him. One of them he knows really well, and they're kind of partners in just like management and everything. They share a lot of things, and so they just don't pressure the deer. And they're very picky, and they have an abundance of feeders that are always full. They have corn year round. They, give them protein, 2 months out of the year in, early spring until the greens start shooting up, and then they just cut it off there. But they just kind of boost their deer in the, before things start growing. That hard part of winter, early spring.
Well, and to set the stage a little bit, so I think it's pretty well known that the formula for great deer is generally nutrition, age, probably
Yep.
not even in that order, probably age first,
Yep.
then nutrition,
Yeah.
then genetics.
Yes.
And especially this is in West Texas,
Yep.
where it's a hard living for a wild animal.
Yeah.
This isn't like an ag field. They don't
Yep.
go eat beans. Like
Yep.
they're eating greenbrier, like
Yep.
when they can find it.
Yeah. So, so it's tough out there for the deer out in West Texas. So it's one of those things where a lot of places you think like, you go to the Midwest, and if I was like, oh yeah, well I had my feeders and my stands and things like that, and you're like, oh man, that's not hunting or whatever, but like it's all the work you put into managing a property that is the hunting. So think about like if you're in the Midwest, like putting in a food plot and putting up tree stands and cutting down limbs and things like that. All that prep work that you're doing is the same as going out to West Texas and putting in a feeder and putting in a stand and, making sure it's filled and, putting up cameras, and you're still putting in the hunt. That hunt is the year round work that you're putting into it, however you want to do that. And
I
if
was
you don't
gonna say,
agree with it, it's fine.
I wish I could have a food plot.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, exactly. So, but that was the other thing. He had just planted 2 food plots out there too.
Okay.
Because he's got these,
because he pushed the cows over to a different spot.
Exactly.
So they wanted,
Yep.
Okay.
So the cattle getting moved that week. They're planting. Like they were, moved the cattle and they planted like that. That was this past week that happened. And then hopefully they're getting rain. Either they got it today or they get some in the next few days, and that'll sprout up. But that's sitting in 2, probably they're smaller fields, probably like 20-acre fields. But there's a rifle stand on one side of that field. There's a feeder on the other side of that field, and then it's all grazing in between. So it's like it's set up for deer hunting.
Yeah,
and then
nice.
to give them food until January, February, whenever that stuff starts fading away. So he was getting that going, but he had the opportunity was he told my father-in-law that there's 2 cull bucks. Well, my father-in-law told him that I started bow hunting. So there's 2 cull bucks, and he had just put up this bow stand this summer. It's the first bow-specific spot he's had on the property yet.
Okay.
So he put this feeder up, new bow box blind up.
And that's an interesting thing about Texas too, that if anybody's listening from outside of Texas, there are so many rifle hunters here. And it's interesting, like if you go on public land, there's a lot of bow hunters. But on private, like it's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, I can't think of too many places where like people specifically set up for bow unless like that's the opportunity that you're given. It's like, well, maybe, West Texas, definitely not. But other places that like maybe might be a little tighter, maybe East Texas or something like that, where more heavily forested or something like that, or you get that extra month of hunting out of it, things like that, where I could see that happening. But for the most part, it's a rifle state.
Everybody and their brother-in-law has got a 30-06 and a bag of corn.
Exactly. And that's just standard. So he put this in because he wants to get back into bow hunting.
That's cool.
His son just started getting into archery. He was using his the landowner's old Matthews bow. The landowner just got a Hoyt bow a couple years ago.
What do you have, like an old solo cam or something?
Yeah. Nice. And he still likes the Matthews better than the new Hoyt. And so
it's a Ford and Chevy type of thing.
Exactly.
I have both, right?
Yeah,
but I'm shooting the Hoyt this year.
Yes. So
I like it.
That was his preference, and it was just like how he pulled it and everything. Which, like he said, he had an injured shoulder too, so he's like having to dial things back, and so all that. So he was prepping it for himself. Actually, he wanted to go out there and shoot something with the bow. But he was seeing these 2 cull bucks on it. One was probably a 4.5-year-old, and the other one is a 2.5-year-old. And 4.5-year-old, like he gave it a shot, to turn into, a nice buck. The 2.5-year-old just had this funky left side of.
Well, and I would say that's a very traditional thing for a cull buck to be like an old deer that just isn't good. And so it gets to the point where if he's old, you have other deer of the same age class, and that one's just an underperformer.
Yeah.
And he's competing with your good bucks. So just get him out of there.
Yeah, exactly. And so we showed up to the property. We ran around, checked every camera. So he pulled all the cameras. He had a flatbed truck, so I'd jump up on the flatbed. Every time we stopped, I'd jump up back there with my binos and just start like glassing around the property. See turkeys over here, and just see hawks flying and stuff like that. So it was just kind of cool. And then we got back and we sat down, and he showed me pictures of these 2 cull bucks that were coming into the feeder there at the bow blind. And so I'm like, all right, so like this smaller one, like I got it. Like in my head, like I was like, I know which deer this is. It just had this weird 3-pronged side. I've got the right.
Very much, and I think one thing. So we use not GroupMe, we use WhatsApp, and so we had this conversation going when we were headed out to our hunt. and you're like, I'm getting the hit list now.
Yes,
It's like a wanted poster.
Yes, exactly. And so the smaller one, like very distinct. It had this left side that just had like 3 prongs sticking out of it pretty much. And they were like kind of getting flat. And so like you could really tell this buck is just like, is very, it had some character to it that like you can't miss. The other one was like typically like how wide it was very typical. So it's like wider than the ears, like nice, decent width on it. It's got, it had, it would have been like 8 points. It's got these little crab claws at the end. One of them broke off. And so like, I was like, how am I supposed to tell this between like this, like 8 point and some other 8 point that you don't want me to shoot? Cause like, I don't understand this property at all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm looking at this thing and he starts flipping through pictures, and then for a second there, I was like, okay, let me take a picture of that one buck that you wanted me to shoot. So like, I know which one it is. And then he flips to like 2 or 3 more pictures. And I was like, I don't think I need a picture of this. Like I looked at the other deer that were coming to that feeder, and it was night and day.
But
like the difference
being able
between
to
these
see
two.
that comparison and you looking at the trail camera photos, man, I mean, trail cameras are the biggest change I think we've had in hunting in my lifetime. And being able to be like, because if somebody's like, yeah, there's some good 8 points, and then there's this one crappy 8 point, and shoot that one.
Yeah,
like,
you try to describe it.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
But when you actually see them all on camera, you're like, oh, I got it.
Yes. It's like this one has 12-inch, G3s on it. Goodness. And this one doesn't have G3s. You're like, oh.
Got it.
Okay, I get it now. So I got a picture of that first one. And so right after that, it took me out there to the blind, dropped me off in the truck because it was just like, it's that idea of like the wildlife is just used to that truck. Like he goes out there almost every weekend. He's running the rounds to all the feeders, used to the truck. So just a hint, like if you're driving to stands and feeders constantly, like throughout the rest of the year, just keep doing that if you can.
Yeah.
Like if you have somebody who can just like drop you off early with that truck that's been going to that feeder all the time anyways.
Because they've patterned you in a good way.
Exactly.
And that, like if you're acting all sneaky with camo, then you know something's up. But if it's the same truck they always see, no big deal.
Walking in from a half mile out, they're like, why is this dude walking around here?
Yeah.
Like, because usually there's just a truck driving around.
Yeah.
So they dropped me off. I, got out of the truck, walked 10 yards, sat down in this brand new box blind that had never been used.
One of those like fiberglass, like redneck deals.
Yes. But
fancy pants. Like we make our stuff out of like
I know
the like discounted lumber at Lowe's that they spray paint purple.
That's our good bow blind.
That's true.
The rest of them are chicken wire and brush
and grass.
Yes, exactly.
The grass that the cows didn't eat.
Exactly, which is not much. So I was sitting in this blind. Nobody had shot anything out of it yet. Like totally like I got in it and it smelled like fiberglass. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Sitting in a brand new office chair and that kind of stuff. Like, we threw a rug down in there that afternoon to like silence it because nobody had sat in it yet.
Yeah, they can be kind of loud. Banging inside of
for sure.
It's like if you're sitting inside of like an old town canoe or something.
Exactly.
It's just a big hollow fiberglass.
Yep. So I sat down there and I got in there like 5:30 and the feeder went off. I was supposed to go off at 7, so I sat there for a couple hours. So 6:30, 2 does and a fawn walked into my left, directly downwind of me. Didn't do anything. Just stood there waiting for the feeder to go off. Well,
and that's where it's like, is it because they're so, I don't know, not suspicious because they have regular food and they're not afraid of that truck? Or is it because that blind is helping
That's
you that
what I was wondering,
I mean, it's hard to call it there.
Exactly. But it was really interesting. So the wind, like, technically was at my back, blowing right at the feeder, and then, like, a little bit to the left. And the does and the fawn came in from the left right into the feeder. So the feeder went off. They walked in. They ate. I had a center window open, which is one of those skinny windows, like a bow window. If you've seen like a fiberglass bow blind before, they have these like skinny.
Or a medieval castle.
Yes, which is, it looks like the windows or like the slots in a medieval castle. There's 3 skinny windows out the front of this thing. And I brought a little that like camo, covering stuff to put over the side windows just to get it darker inside the
That's a good call.
blind, just like, so nothing was shining off of me. So it's harder to see me. So I draped that, but it had those like slits in it. It's kind of like
So you can still like lean in and peek through it.
Yeah, so I can still like see through the corners, but it darkened it up, and I kind of leaned it across one of the bow windows too on the front. So it just like darkened it up in there quite a bit. And so every time the does were looking at me, like, they'd look everywhere, but like they also would look at me, and it didn't bother them at all. They'd look over at the blind and then just turn back and eat or whatever. So didn't spook them at all. They came in, they ate the corn, and then, they popped up when they really got, jumpy was when they looked back to my left again from the same spot. A group of bucks started walking in. And I was like, downwind of me. And I'm like, what? Like, this blind works really well, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they walked in too, and they just walked right over. They pushed the does off the feeder, and this bigger, older cull buck that, was on the hit list was the one pushing all these other deer around. There was a 10-point that like would have been like the biggest trophy I've ever shot. And it was like jumping away from this nasty old cull buck.
So he's just an old bully.
He was an old bully. He was the buck that needed to go. And so like when I saw that, I was like, man, like, and this was, the landowner was just looking at it off of trail cam pictures and just saying like, this is not the best buck. But man, I was like,
but seeing behavior.
Yeah. Behaviorally, man, like it needed to go, cause it would have bred, cause it was pushing those other bucks around. He was
competing with the better ones.
Yeah. He was more dominant than any other buck. And there was 5 bucks that came in. So 5 bucks come strolling in, and he was the one right under the feeder in the biggest pile of corn. And anytime any other buck like walked up to him, he'd turn and he'd push him away. Yep. And he'd walk back at him until they backed up, and they were picking corn from the outside rim.
Yeah. He's the boss.
He was the boss. And he was walking around behind the feeder, so I didn't really have a shot at this time, which was great because it's cool to like watch their behavior. Like I really loved watching the behavior of the deer and seeing him just like push them around and knowing that there was a pecking order. And I've had chickens in the past, and where pecking order comes from.
Yeah.
And like it's the same with deer. It's very similar. So he was pushing these other deer around, and then finally he curled around to the front side of the feeder. And this feeder is 19 yards away from the it
sounds close, but honestly, that's about right. I mean,
it's on the ground, which was the hard part. Okay. So like if I was up above eye line, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. And been like 19.
The feeder was on the ground, and the blind was on the ground.
Both.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah. So I'm 19 yards away, and I'm at eye level. So like,
because you've seen my place down south, and that one's at 25, but we're at about 10 feet up, 12 feet up, something like that.
So even if you were 5 yards closer, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because you're 10 feet in the air.
Right.
If you're above eye line of these animals, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well,
I got busted on my hunt when I was on the ground, and they came out. Yeah. I was basically playing peekaboo with them at 25 yards. And so, I get how close that is.
Exactly.
It's tough.
Exactly. So I'm glad I blacked out the windows.
Yeah. That was smart.
Yeah. Because I was like, I didn't know if I could pull it off. Just like, drawing on them. I wish I was up higher just for that reason. Like 19 yards is great. Like that's perfect shot. 20 yards. Like that's a great shot. Like that's where I want to be.
At least 8 feet off the ground.
Yeah. That's where you practice the most, I would say.
Yeah.
Is like when you start shooting a bow, like where do you start?
20 pin.
Yeah, your 20 pin. So it's like most comfortable shot. So that was great. So like it was like if I can draw on this thing, I feel good about the shot. So he turned and he got perfectly broadside, and I drew on him. You know, none of them spooked. None of them saw me. And I let the arrow fly, and it hit him broadside right there, right where I thought I wanted to hit. And this thing was probably 2 inches to the left, and his head was to the left. And it just smacked his leg bone, the front leg. And his arrow just like...
Was it low or just far forward?
It was just a little bit forward. Like,
okay.
Well, I guess it was a little low because I think I was aiming like lower for the heart, or if he dropped it all.
Yeah.
So I was aiming a little low, and like I got some advice from some other people saying like you usually don't miss low. Somebody's told me that before.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I was aiming a little low, which would have been a great shot, you know, if it would have been 2 inches back, you know.
Yeah.
But so I was aiming a little low. If he would have ducked, it would have been great too. It would have been, you know, it would have gone right behind that.
Well, and it's an interesting thing that you say that too, because like I'll hear a lot of people say, I hit him in the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, what do you mean? Because if you actually, I mean, you've cleaned a bunch of deer, and if you actually look at the shape of that bone, it's like a V going forward.
Yes.
And so you're like, you hit him in the shoulder. Do you hit him in the scapula? Because if you're shooting a good fixed blade, you should blow right through that.
Yeah.
But if you hit him like solid in the leg bone.
Leg. Yeah, lower leg bone. But like.
I mean, that's a 1.25-inch bone.
Yes. Oh, it was like the thickest part of the leg.
Ah, damn it.
And
so did it just, I mean, did you just hear smack when that thing
hit?
Which
I haven't bow hunted a whole lot. So if you remember the hog hunt, I was like, that's what it sounds like. I was talking about the hit on the hog.
Yeah.
Well, like this hit, like it kind of sounded similar because I don't know.
One's a sharp knife through a watermelon. The other's a hammer on a 2x4.
Either way, my adrenaline was pumping so much, I don't know.
Yeah.
I heard it hit, but I couldn't distinguish between the two.
Yeah,
like that was my issue.
I hit him.
Like, so it was like, I had a thwack. It thumped him. And
so what'd he do? How did he react?
So he just like, all the other deer just like scattered a little bit, and he like bounded just like maybe 5 yards to my left from like where he came from, just like ran back that direction a little bit and then spun around. But I knew I like wrecked his leg because he held that leg up the whole time. He never put the foot down. So he was running on 3 legs, and he went 5 yards, spun all the way around to the other side. So he was facing the opposite direction and gave me a quartering away broadside shot on the other side of him. And so I reach back and I pick up another arrow because I had one already like popped out of the thing. So because it's like there's enough room there. Like, you know, I had a second arrow prepped already. Like I didn't even have to pop it out of the thing. It was already popped out. I just had to like reach back. It was already loose, and I just picked it up, knocked it, and pulled back on him again and made that quartering away shot, and I thumped him right in the heart.
Nice.
It was like this one, I hit it, and I watched the blood squirt right back in my direction.
Dude, and isn't that the craziest thing to see?
Yes. And it was like instant. It was like boom. Psh.
Yeah, spray.
Yeah. And it was spraying blood back out in my direction.
Oh, I'm so glad you got that other shot.
Just
because there's so many stories that you hear from people who are like, yeah, I thought I was lined up, and then something happened, and I missed. And you know what? It happens to everybody.
If he would have kept like jogging away on 3 legs, I would have never found him.
But you didn't waste time.
Oh, yeah. As soon as
you loaded and sent it.
I kept my eyes on him because I've learned my lesson on that of like getting excited and just being like, all right, sweet. And like grabbing my stuff or whatever to like go get it or whatever. Or like just not being hyper focused on where it's going.
Well, good for you, because it's something I've said repeatedly. And you see it on all these hunting shows. People are like, smoked him, fist bump.
Yeah.
Like so many people celebrate so early.
Oh, yeah.
But you were actually paying attention to know what happened.
Yes. Well, because I've messed that up. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been the one who's like, my adrenaline's pumping so much that I just like lose focus, and I'm like, yeah.
Dude, it's so easy to do. So
and then it's like, where'd the deer go? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So So this one is like I had my binos right there. I like everything was just like, as soon as I let this arrow fly, like I want to know exactly where the deer goes, like exactly how it's acting. Like I wanted to be hyper focused on that, and I was really intentional about that. And so as soon as, he ran over there and turned around, I was like, well, oh crap. I like grabbed another arrow, knocked it, pulled back, thumped him again, watched the arrow go through, pumping blood out, watched him run around a couple of trees, and he curled right back around. He didn't go very far. He curled right back around, and then he looked right back at me, and he was probably like 45 yards away.
He looked back at you like, you.
Yep. And then
you did this.
and then he like kind of disappeared into the brush right there, but it sounded like a crash. And I was like, yeah, I think that's where he is. But like, I knew exactly the last spot I saw him, like I was like, that's where he was. Like, I know if I need to start following blood, this is where I'll start, where I shot him, right where I saw blood squirting out. But I'm going to walk out to where he like turned around and looked at me and looked like he was going down first. And then I'll come back and blood trail him later. But
that sounds like a man who's tired of losing doves in tall grass.
Yeah, exactly. That's the spot right there. Walk straight to it. Done that before. That was 2 weeks earlier. So he, watched that. So I still didn't move. I'm just like sitting there staring at that spot where I saw him last. Cause I'm like, if he laid down and he's going to get back up, I'm just going to keep watching. So I got the binos up and down and up, like checking close a little farther. It's getting dark. It's like after sunset. So I shot him at probably 10 minutes after sunset. You can shoot him up to 30. And then, so I'm sitting there watching him for those last few minutes where I could still see pretty well. But as I'm sitting there watching him, the other 4 deer came walking back into the feeder.
Like, we didn't like him anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So he runs away, like all that commotion, 2 bow shots, and 4 deer come trotting back in and start eating the corn again. And I was like, what in the world? And so I'm sitting there, I'm looking back at the spot, and I'm also looking at these other 4 deer, seeing if this other cull buck's in the group. Because I'm like, well, if the other cull buck's in the group, shoot him too. Because the landowner was like, if you can get both of them tonight, that'd be great. Like, he's like, go for it. He just wants to get rid of these 2 deer.
Like, I got 5 arrows.
Yes, exactly. So I'm down 2 right now.
I got 3 arrows.
Exactly. Yes. So that's what actually I was thinking that. I was like, oh man, all right, we're getting low on the arrow side here. So I'm sitting here looking at the deer in front of me, making sure, it's not the other cull bucks in the group. Looking out where I thought the other one laid down and things like that. So looking back and forth, I'm just waiting. So it was really cool. I took some pictures and videos of the deer. They were, came back in, and that was fun just watching them. And then let the landowner know that, I shot that one. And so the deer that came back in, they kind of scattered off. It was probably 45 minutes after I shot it. It was dark. You couldn't. Without a light, you couldn't see anything at that point. So put my headlamp on, walked out there just to check, arrows and things like that under the feeder. And there's a raccoon under the feeder. And I knocked an arrow. And I was like, if this raccoon is still there when I walk out there, I'm going to shoot at it. And so I like walked out the back of the blind.
Do they have the same feelings about raccoons that I do?
Oh, yeah. They want to get rid of them.
Okay.
Yeah. They are corn eaters. That's the wildlife they don't want to promote.
I don't know how many raccoons are in Texas, but
too many.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Just
millions.
Not just Texas.
Millions.
This is everywhere.
Yeah.
But I turned the corner, and then as I had that arrow knocked, I was like, I only have 3 arrows or 3 broadheads left for this weekend. I am not shooting at a raccoon.
I'm not wasting a titanium broadhead on a coon.
It's not happening. Yep. So I was like, turned the corner, kept the arrow knocked because I was like, if that deer jumps up, I just want to be ready. So I was like, I started walking out there and walked over, and that first arrow that I shot at the leg had fallen right where I shot. So like it hit the leg of this deer and it dropped right there, like that exact point. So it's like,
it just
hammered that leg, broke the leg, and just dropped.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. But that titanium tip, still like perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously titanium is going to be harder than a bone, but like nothing happened to it. I mean, I just watched a video this past week of a broadhead that was curled in the front. The tip was curled over. And I was like,
It was a rage, wasn't it?
I don't know
Probably.
I don't know what it was.
They're great when they work right, but man, when
if you
stuff goes wrong.
If you haven't seen that video, you probably will, because it's one of the shows that you watch. So
Okay.
I'm sure you'll see it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
So I picked that arrow up, put it back in the quiver. But first I like looked at it and I was like, man, it's clean. What in the world? But like, I wasn't putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I was like, wait a second. It's laying in front of where I shot it. Like it didn't even make it past the deer.
Penetrate
Yeah.
anything.
I was like, it didn't go in.
Yeah.
So then I walk over and I just like walked where like I shot him the second time and I didn't see anything there. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to walk straight to where I saw the deer last. And then if I don't, I'll come back to where I saw blood squirting out and I'll start tracking blood.
And I think generally that's a really smart strategy. The only exception to that is if like you don't think it's a good hit and there's a chance that you're going to get a dog on it later.
Yeah.
Don't do that because you're just ruining the scent trail.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to get a dog and you think it's a good hit and you know what happened,
and
don't start at square one. Start at the very last thing you saw.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is distance matters too.
Yeah.
So it's like if I saw him out at 80 yards and he was like here, there, and everywhere and made it 80 yards and I'm like, I think I saw him right behind this bush, or even 100 yards or 200 yards or whatever it is, like the farther distance out that you think you saw them.
Yeah.
If
you're 10% off up close, that's one thing. If you're 10% off way out there.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, I can walk 20 yards into the brush right here. And if I'm off, like it's 20 yards, like
no big deal.
Leave it alone, go back, like start over. We'll do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But if I'm just like, like kind of trashing through all the brush as I'm like trying to find where I thought I saw him last, like way out there, that's a different story. You could get in trouble there. So it was close enough because where I saw him last was probably 20 yards away from where I shot him. So it was not that far. It was 40 yards away from me. So shot him at 20 yards. He ran 20 yards. So I was like, I'll go that extra 20, see if he's out there somewhere. And so I started walking out in that direction, got the headlamp on, and I looked over to my left, and I got the reflection of an eye.
Nice.
And I was like, there he is.
See that little green glow on the ground.
Yep.
And you're like, it's either the biggest wolf spider
right.
or there he is.
Well, I saw the eye and the reflection of an antler above his, like the not reflection, but you know what I'm saying? Like the white of the antler above his eye. So I was like,
so you're like, did wolf spiders have some genetic mutation?
he has created a web that looks like an antler.
No, seeing a white antler reflect back at man, that just feels good.
Yes. So I walk over there, and there he was. He's dead as a doornail.
All right. Congrats, dude.
Yeah. So that was the big old boy that needed to go. And seeing his behavior, like I said, he needed to go. So, we the landowner brought his flatbed out there, which, he's a older gentleman, and so he has a ramp and a winch on the back of this flatbed.
But you weren't complaining. It's
not at all.
Not your standard equipment, but when you got it, use it, man.
Sir, that's right. So we did have to drag it a little ways because he was in some pretty heavy brush, but it was like probably 15 yards. So we dragged him out, not far at all. And then we dropped down this ramp, pulled the winch out, wrapped the wire around his antlers, hooked it on. He flipped the switch, pulled the winch back up. It pulled the deer right back up on the flatbed. Slid the ramp back up.
You have like an ADA approved deer loading system.
Yes, it's amazing. It's like all these things was like, man, when I'm that age, these are like life goals, man.
Must be nice.
Yes. Because like right now, like I don't care. Like I don't need that stuff. I'll throw a deer up on my, bed of my truck, whatever. I don't care. But it's like at some point, which I do remember hearing somebody across the table here of using ratchet straps to pull a deer up on the back of his truck.
Yep, I did it.
So a winch would have come in handy there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you had it, you would have used it.
Would have been nice.
So that being said, someday I'll probably put the winch on the back of the truck. And then at the neighbor's property, which, like I said, they share a lot of things. They have a skinning shed, which is like this nice barn with a cooler in it and with like meat hooks and everything.
And when you say cooler, you mean like a walk-in?
Kind of not quite. So it's like a industrial size refrigerator type of thing.
Okay.
Like stainless steel. Like I have walked into it? Sure. But I would have been
But you're a little guy.
Yes, exactly. It is not a walk-in.
Can you? Yes. Should
So,
you? Probably not.
It was probably, the inside of it was probably 5 feet tall. And it was probably about 3 feet deep.
Okay.
And but it was 6 feet wide. So it was like, like I could have like stacked, 12 quarters.
I guess my point was it's not just an insulated area with a wall air conditioner.
No, it was more like a
like
big
a legit,
refrigerator. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a big industrial refrigerator.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and you back your truck, up to a door, and then, this thing was probably 15 feet inside the door. So it was nice. So I did the gutless method on the bed of my truck. We pulled it over onto my truck because they were running back to the house and doing all this stuff.
Oh, just on the tailgate?
Yep, I did it
you
on the
didn't
tailgate.
hang it? Okay.
No, I prefer to do it like on a table or a tailgate over hanging it to do gutless. It's easier for me to manage the deer. Hanging it is just awkward for me. You got things swinging around and everything. I can control it better when I'm on the tailgate or a table.
At first, I would have said that's a little bit weird and unusual, but like actually looking at the last deer and pigs that I've cleaned, when I hung it, I wasn't any faster.
Yeah.
And I wasn't any better.
Yeah.
Like at some point it felt like I could see a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But actual efficacy,
I think
no
there's
difference.
Yeah, I think there's positives of both, and I think that they just zero each other out.
Yeah,
It's
I think there also is a huge benefit in if you're the guy who only knows how to clean a deer when it's hanging.
Oh yeah,
and then it's laying down. You're like, what do I do?
Well, they had gambrels and everything there, and winches and everything.
I like it my way.
Yeah, they had everything to hang this deer up. I just didn't want to. Yeah. I'm more comfortable doing the gutless method on a deer that's laying, waist height.
Yeah,
rather than hanging somewhere because I'm just I'm just tired of chasing legs in circles, and I feel like I do that all the time. So, that's how I did it. Put all the quarters, the head, into this cooler or the fridge, or I guess you could call it.
Well, so going back a little bit, so you clean this one gutless method. The heart we ate was not from this deer, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you fish out the tenders?
I did on this one.
Okay.
Yes.
Because gutless method, it's sometimes you can get in there and you might as well.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense to fish out those tenderloins. And sometimes if it's really bloated or you just don't want to deal with it, I kind of get, and it sucks because it's a great piece of meat.
Yep.
But I kind of get not getting in there.
Yes, which I have left them before. And we'll talk about that here in a second.
Okay.
So, got that one cleaned up that night. Headed back to the house. Had dinner. Went to bed. Well, actually got back to the house and the landowner said, well, you want to shoot the other one in the morning?
All right.
Yes, sir. So we planned on the time to get up and head back out. So ate dinner, went to bed, got up in the morning, took a shower, jumped in the truck, and he dropped me back off at the stand. He was pushing it. I wanted to go earlier, but I wasn't going to say anything because
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. You're the guest.
I wanted to get out there like an hour earlier because I was
Yeah.
like, I'll sleep in here for an hour.
Better safe than sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we got out there like 6:30 and the feeder went off at 7. And that's just what they wanted to do. But this feeder's like, seriously, is like 300-400 yards away from the house.
Yeah.
It's close.
Well, and what's
Because
interesting
the rest of them are pretty far away.
is right now we're getting into that time of the year where the daylight hours are shifting later and later, but the time change hasn't moved yet. And so I think actual sunup was, I mean, it varies by location, of course, but probably 7:40 or 7:30, something like that.
It was like 7:30. Yeah, it was 7:35, I think.
But I guess my point is when the feeder went off, it may have not even
wasn't
been legal
shooting
light.
It was not shooting light. I just wanted, because I figured the deer would be there around when it went off. Some deer would be around.
Yeah.
That I wanted to be there early enough that it's like, I don't care if I can shoot or not. I just don't want to bust anything that's hanging around there waiting for the feeder to go off. You know,
right.
It's like I'd rather be there at 6 and then let's like sit there and then not bother the deer that like come in at 6:30 or 6:45. Because the night before, that doe group showed up 30 minutes before the feeder went off, and we're just hanging out 30 yards away.
Well, and in general, I have to applaud your attitude of saying I'd rather get less sleep and be more uncomfortable and not mess up my hunt
Yeah,
than be more comfortable
yeah.
and risk maybe messing up my hunt.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
I mean,
you made.
honestly,
I agree with your perspective.
I was so excited. I just woke up at 5 o'clock naturally, and that's why I took a shower because I was just like, "What else am I going to do? I'm sitting around this house and there's nothing to
You're
do."
like, I've got a chance at another one.
I
When does
know.
this ever happen?
Yes. So, drop me off at 6:30. I'm sitting there, and feeder goes off at 7. And I saw a couple bucks to my left again. They just always came in from the left. And the whole time I was there, the wind was blowing in that diagonal direction. And and so, and they're sitting over there to the left, and feeder goes off, and they like tiptoed in this time. And it was like, I could tell they were a little bit on edge. Like I think they smelled me a little bit, and they could tell I was there, but they didn't like, their need for food
Yeah.
was greater than their
Well, I mean, and
lack
you're
of
the
security.
It sounds like nobody else is bow hunted there, so it's just like they're far more worried about going hungry that day than getting shot.
Yep. And
Even
so-
though where'd that one guy go? I don't know.
Exactly. I think they were just relieved that he wasn't like knocking them around. But here's the funny thing. So it's like the same group of bucks, they seemed like lost when they came in. They were just kind of like looking at each other, like waiting for him to come in and like push him out of the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was really odd behavior.
That they're just like the routine's different today.
Yeah.
We don't know what's up.
Yes. And I think they might have tiptoed in more because that other buck wasn't there, more than the fact that I was there.
Just
Because
he
they're
was
just-
the confidence guy.
Exactly. They were used to him just coming in, walking in, eating the corn, pushing them around, making the decisions pretty much. And there's nobody coming in making the decisions and like telling us where to go. And
Isn't that cool though to just like observe their
yes.
behavior?
Oh,
And,
I love it.
Obviously, like Huntingham's cool, the meat's great, the trophies are great, but just sitting out there and watching these animals and the way they interact with each other can be so cool.
If the landowner said like, "Hey, you got your deer, like, so what do you want to do tomorrow?" I would have been like, "Can I just sit in a stand?"
Nice.
And I would have like just taken pictures and videos and watched them.
Yeah.
Because like that was cool enough for sure. But with this group, I'm sitting there. That other coal buck comes walking in, and funky little left side that's got this 3-prong thing on it, and it's like, all right. So I'm waiting for him, and he comes curling around just like the other one here around the backside. And the other bucks are standing there. There's one of them right in front of me, probably like 10 yards in front of me. Looked at me a bunch of times. Wasn't too bothered by me at all. But I was waiting actually for that one to move because the coal buck was standing broadside behind it for a little while. And I was like, "Oh, come on, buddy." And I'm at ground level, so it's not like you can't take shot over it or anything like that.
Yeah, it's straight line.
Yep. And like even then, I'd try to wait if it's relaxed and it's just walking around eating anyways. Like I'd rather not shoot over anything anyways. So
Don't risk it unless it's a pig.
Yeah, exactly.
I shot over the back of a whitetail to hit a pig in the summer one time, and when I looked back on it, I pulled it off, and I'm like, yeah, great. But I'm like, was that really the right thing to do?
Spinal whitetail on accident.
I mean, I felt confident enough about it, and I
pulled it off.
I did it right.
You did what you're supposed to do.
But still, I get what you're saying.
So I waited for this other whitetail to move out of the way. And then, as he was moving out of the way, I'm, kind of looking over at him. And then, so, as soon as he moved out of the way, I just drew. And I just pulled the pin up on this deer. And, put on the spot that I wanted to put it on. And I let the arrow fly. It just thumped him. And he just booked it to the right. Just ran hard. Just took off.
And shot looked good where it went in?
Yeah, seemed good.
It's crazy though, it happens so fast.
Yeah.
It looked good, but
yeah. And if you were sitting next to me and you were just staring right at that deer and seeing how it went, it makes it a huge difference, I'm where you can you have two sets of eyes on what you're shooting at and you're both kind of assessing it and processing it together.
Well, and even that's not even close to
having a video that you
recording
can
my hunts,
rewatch.
Sometimes recording your hunts, man, there's a lot of struggle that goes into that, but a huge benefit of it is
After
just being
able
to replay the footage five times and see what really happened.
Yeah. Because looking at that hog, it's oh, that's what happened.
Yeah.
After bring it home and look at the footage. So, I mean, sounded good, looked good. He took off running like he was hurt, and I just sat there and waited. The other bucks, there's 3 other bucks with him. They ran off to the left, other direction.
Did you see what happened to the arrow? Did you see if he ran off with the arrow, or did you see it go past him? Or
passed through. I saw the arrow laying there.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. And pulled the binos up. After I'm just sitting there, and I actually opened the window to the right of me, and I literally stuck my head out the window watching in the direction that he's running. I was just
it sounds goofy, but it makes perfect sense.
I just wanted the best view of possible, if he was going to curl back around behind me, or if he was taking off away from me, or whatever he's doing. I'm just sitting there staring at the last place I saw him. And I'm just where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? And just and I watch a lot of hunting shows and everything, and I see that's one of the huge mistakes. Like I said, I've made that mistake a little bit, but I see it all the time on hunting shows of just the early celebration, or just you stop that super focus after the shot. And I think that the super focus starts as soon as you draw the bow, and it doesn't end until 30 minutes later.
Till you're following a blood trail.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly. Until you're out of the blind and you're walking after it. You're just looking intently to see any movement. Is it, do you hear anything? Do you see anything first? Do you hear anything second? And just going through that order. So that's what I was doing. I was just super focused on it. And as my head's sticking out the window and I'm looking over to the right, the other 3 bucks start walking back towards the feeder. And I slowly turn my head and look over at them. And they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them.
And they're yeah, but corn.
Yeah, exactly. And so I froze. I just didn't move. I'm sitting there, and they kind of trotted to the left a little bit, and then they started picking at the grass a little bit, and I just slowly brought my head back in the window. And then they walked back over and started eating corn again.
Nice.
So I watched them eat for probably 30 minutes, and I just sat and waited. I mean, it's a bow shot. I'm not going to jump out of the blind to go chasing a deer down that's not dead on the spot,
Right.
So waited 30 minutes, walked out, looked, the deer had, the other deer had wandered off. Looked at the arrow, learning a little bit more about arrow blood and things like that. So I looked at the arrow and I was like, man, this thing's just covered in blood, perfect shot,
And bright red, not dark red.
Yeah, looking for that. It's probably darker than what it should have been.
Okay.
So, but in my mind, it just looked like red blood.
Yeah.
Good red blood. This is the first arrow I've inspected to look for what type of shot it was.
Yeah.
So I guess besides that hog, like, which we found it broken off in the woods. So it's like,
that's hard to tell anything from. Yeah.
And this is daylight, like, just a lot of things were going for me to be able to inspect this arrow. And so that's something that I really need to learn from this hunt, was like how to inspect an arrow for blood. So it was darker red. It was not, that bubbly kind of like light blood.
Foamy almost.
Yeah. Is already dried on there. There's ants covered on this arrow already. Just like they had already taken over the arrow. Like,
well, and that's just early season in Texas. Dude, it's crazy. Like one of the hogs, I think it was actually the hog Daniel shot.
Yeah.
The whole thing almost looked like it was like vibrating.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one number of ants that were on it.
Dropped off the back of the truck, and you're like, all right, the ants came off. Right?
Well, yeah, I don't usually start the story that way.
You guys pushed it off the back of the truck so you could knock the ants off, right?
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Me saying that, I've dropped a whitetail off the back of my truck. So Pliny has thrown back in the back of his truck as he trailed me down.
True.
So I have no place to speak, but it worked to get the ants off.
Yep.
So I grabbed the arrow. I just went over and I had my bow and just an arrow in the knot, that was knocked. And so I didn't have my quiver with me. So I just leaned the arrow up against the feeder and then started looking for blood. And I found one spot. Actually, I found an ant spot. There's a spot, there's just like tons of ants right there. And so I like pushed it over with my boot and there's blood under it.
So there was this, and I don't know if y'all listen to the Meat Eater podcast at all, but they were talking about how daddy long legs, there are a lot of myths about them, but one thing is they did eat blood and decaying things.
Okay.
And they jokingly said, oh, just follow the daddy long legs and they'll trail your animal for you. But you kind of just did that with ants.
Yes.
And probably fire ants or those little black ants, I'm guessing, not the like ones. Big West Texas carpenter ants or whatever.
It was like miniature ants. I think it's smaller than most fire ants.
Yeah, those little black ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I saw that, and then I was like, so I keep looking, and as you know, West Texas, you like keep looking, you're like, I'm looking in dust for.
It just soaks it up.
It's gone. Yeah. It's like, this is an hour ago now.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no blood here. So I just started walking and looking and walking. And then I just ended up just like getting ready to shoot because I'm like, I really don't know how well of a shot this was now. Cause like I did see that blood and there was like a second guess in the back of my mind. And so like, I just started like super slowly walking in, to the direction that it went. And so I started walking over there and I made it probably, I don't know, probably 30 yards away from the feeder. And then I just like started cutting away from, because I didn't see it curl back towards the stand. Because I had a pretty good view to my right if it had curled back towards the stand. So if it tried to curl back around me, if that makes sense.
So you could at least eliminate that direction.
Yeah, so I went out, I don't know, between 30 and 40 yards, and then I started going away. And then I just like, in my mind, I was just like, all right, I think it's time to grid search just because like I can't see any blood here. Like there's no blood. So I started going out, and then I curled back towards the feeder. I actually walked all the way back to the feeder and tried to like circle to look for blood again. So I just did some loops out that way. And then I walked back out where I first walked, that general direction, but on a little bit of a different trail. And I made it like 40 yards and he was just laying there.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, there he is.
Wow. Man, and I don't know if that's like a couple struggles to note there. So these fixed blade broadheads that aren't huge, that are medium or smaller diameter, I would say these aren't small, medium diameter fixed blades, they penetrate like crazy. Mm-hmm. But they don't leave the best blood trails, or at least not at first, not in the first 20 yards. Yeah. And so that's tough. And then compiled with what you mentioned, the West Texas, it's so dry and it's just dust. Yep. And so a drop of blood just It gets sucked
And
up,
if
and you don't. It's not like red blood on leaves.
Exactly.
Like, anybody can see that.
And if you sit and wait like you should,
It
and
just
make sure the
dries out
animal
even more.
expires, then your trail is like gone. You have nothing there. So it's like the longer you wait, the worse the blood trail is, but the better chance the deer's dead. So it's like this, like
It's a trade-off. Yeah.
What do I do?
But I mean, it sounds like what you did was exactly right. You're just
Yeah.
like, well, I know he's
But-
in this direction,
Yes.
generally in this radius, so let's just start making loops.
I
and
think
keep track of it.
Yeah. The best thing that I did last weekend was just watched intently after I shot. Best thing I did.
Yeah.
I would say me just like going out and walking to where I thought it was could have been the worst decision I made. You know, like that could have been bad.
It worked out.
It worked out last weekend.
But it could have not.
That could have been really bad. You know, like that, like I know that was a gamble.
Yeah.
I know walking out to the spot without having blood, without knowing it was a great shot, was a gamble. And it worked out last weekend. But what I know I did do well, like that I will keep doing, is make a shot, just watch. Like every bit of your senses just like hyper focused on like, where's it going? What's it sound like? What's it doing? How's it acting? Like seeing all that, like knowing that both those deer like ran like they were going to die is a difference between like seeing a deer where you like hit it and it's like, what just hit me? Huh? And then like kind of does, you know, acts normally and kind of trots off.
Just that body language.
Exactly. Like knowing the body language, knowing exactly what the deer did, those kinds of things. Like I have very vivid images in my mind of exactly what both those deer did when I made the kill shot.
Well, and you saying that makes me think back to my buck from opening weekend that like on the shot, I'm like, I know I got him. It feels good. Then I watched the footage and it seemed good, but I watched him run back and then like just stand there for a while. And then I was nervous about it.
Yep.
But then I watched him bed down and I knew exactly where it was.
Yep.
And then I couldn't tell if he was still there or not. Turns out he was about 10 yards from where I saw him bed down. Like he bedded down, got up, and then fell over.
Yep.
But the fact that I had watched him bed down there, like I didn't really blood trail him at all. And I don't think there was a good blood trail. But I didn't really have to because I watched intently, like you were saying.
Yep.
And so it gave me a really good, I guess, just idea of where he likely was.
Yeah. So if I'm listening to this podcast before next bow season,
And note to self.
Kyle, watch your deer intently after you shoot. Don't get overconfident.
Yeah.
I think after I bow hunt for a few years, I seemed like this is what I do with rifle. It's like I get overconfident and just like, shoot, all right, I'm good, you know, and then not like do the follow up, you know, and you like get lazy on the follow up. Where,
Dude,
like, don't get lazy on the follow up.
I think that's
Ever.
something really good. It's a bit of a rabbit trail, but just to talk about too is like, don't get lazy on it. Go back to the basics because there was a while where I felt so confident with my 270.
Yeah.
There were 5 deer in a row that I neck shot and dropped in the spot. And I'm just like, nah, I got this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't miss. What are you talking about?
Yep.
And then a deer came out at about 65 yards. And I couldn't see the top of the neck. Her head was like up in a bush. So I'm like, yeah, lower neck, but I got this. And then it ended up not being pleasant. I wounded that deer, had to finish it off.
I remember that one.
And ultimately, like, that's not to say a neck shot's like unethical or shouldn't be done, but like straight up, I was cocky.
Yeah.
And to your point of just like go back to the basics.
Yep.
Do what's right. Watch what actually happened.
Yep.
Not your ego of what you can do or what you did do, but watch what actually happened.
Yeah.
Dude, that's valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So, next note on this, my shot was not as good as I wanted it to be. It was a little bit, it was probably 3 inches off, which you would think is like,
So it doesn't sound bad.
no.
When you say it like that.
I mean, so first things first, I killed the deer.
Yeah.
It made it 40 yards from where I shot it. So I don't have a problem
Check,
with my
check.
shot. Yeah. no problem with the shot. But if you're not trying to improve, then you're probably getting worse, So I would have liked to have shot it about 3 inches lower and forward on the deer.
So you got high lung.
Yes. So I got high lung, which also contributed to no blood.
Right.
I know that.
Because gravity's working against you, not with you.
It was quartering away farther than I thought. It exited through guts. So high lung guts.
It's quartering away?
Quartering to me.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
Yeah.
Quartering to me. Harder than I thought. I thought it was like super slight quartering. And then the night before, I hit the leg. So I think I compensated a little bit and aimed a few
Further
inches back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I aimed 2 more inches back than I did the night before.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I don't want to hit the leg bone again. So I aimed back a little farther. And it's quartering too harder. And so I was like, those two things came together, and I shot a little bit high. And all that came together to not make the best shot.
Now, the high aspect of that, and again, this is hard without having good camera footage. Do you think that was you pulling high, or do you think that was a little bit of flinch of the deer?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have camera footage, so it could have been the deer. I don't know.
And I just asked just because that's a very common thing I've seen where somebody's like, I felt great about it, but the shot was high. I didn't think it was high.
Yeah, it might have dropped a little bit. I mean, it was probably maybe 2 inches high. So it was I would say 3 inches off on a diagonal, if that makes sense. So it was only 1.5, 2 inches higher than I wanted, but then it was 1.5, 2 inches back.
But it's
farther
enough
than I wanted.
that if you would have done anything different, it's very slight.
Yeah, the deer might have flinched. If I would have shot right where I wanted to, I think it might have still nicked guts, but that would have been the best shot I had at that spot. A better thing to do would have been to wait another few minutes to have it more broadside.
But it's hard to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't know what the deer's going to do,
exactly.
so it's hard to wait.
I had a kill shot who was, you have this. I mean, how many people you see this big old side of a deer, of a buck, and you have this giant target, and you just let me wait a little longer.
Well, and I've been on the other side of that. I've thrown out a good shot for the hope of a best shot, and then be like, well, there he goes.
Yeah, that's true.
So
wait too long. So
I think it's important that you're analyzing that, but I don't think it's a mistake.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that I think I need to learn from, though, is that I think my target was too big. I mean, you have this big brown side of a deer.
Yeah, you don't shoot at a deer. You shoot it.
A spot on the deer. A pinpoint on the deer.
Aim small, miss small.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the exact words that I used while I was sitting in the truck, where I was kind of joking about it because it's we had the deer.
It's a cliche, but for a reason.
Deer. Yes. So as I'm learning to bow hunt, it's one of those things of I've been shooting at a target with a dot on it for so long, and I shoot at that little dot. Yeah. Well, it's I need to create a dot smaller than that on a deer that's just brown.
Shoot fawns.
Yeah. Or axis.
There we go.
Axis.
That's a better solution.
Yes. Shoot fawns. But that is a good idea. Shooting, not the fawns,
but on an axis.
Shooting an axis and pick out one dot. That would actually be a kind of a cool thing to see how close you get to that dot.
My marker is always that elbow bone, where you see it come to that point.
Yeah,
right above that.
Yeah,
and I try to think exactly how much above that.
Pretty sure that's
shooting.
What I shot at the night before, and it was a little bit low, and I hit the bone. So
yeah,
that's why I compensated the other direction.
Well, you were just a little jaded from the experience the night before, and no, I get that. Yeah. But ultimately, big picture, a dead deer 40 yards from point of impact.
Yep,
that's a big success, dude.
Oh yeah. So the landowner had gone away from bow hunting. I guess he did probably 10 years ago. He was bow hunting, and then he stopped doing it. because he was only at like a 50% find rate on his deer that he shot. And so that's why he was like, I don't really want to use this stand to like shoot giant deer. I only want to shoot giant deer with rifles, because he had his own bad experiences with not finding deer.
I know of other people who've had kind of the same story.
Yeah.
One of the guys who really got me into deer hunting in general, he's like, I only rifle hunt because the last year I shot with a bow, I zipped it bad. Like, basically just slash cut down the body.
Oh, wow.
And then the deer kept running and it was bad. But ultimately, like, that's not a bow versus gun thing. Like, it can be.
Yeah.
But it's if you are really careful about the shot and the broadhead you're using.
Yep.
And because a lot of that, it happens when there's a deflection. When you're shooting at an angle into the broadhead, instead of pushing through, it kind of drags along.
Gotcha.
But and it's not that one broadhead's right and another one's wrong. It's more just using the right broadhead and knowing what shots you can or can't take with it, I guess.
Yep.
And so it sounds like you had a little bit of a surprise with it was quartering more than you thought, but it was still absolutely within the realm of.
By the way,
it worked.
Not the first time that's happened, bow or rifle.
Oh,
as in,
dude.
Quartering a little more this way or that way. It's like, how many times have I told you, I was like, well, I nicked the guts again. I mean, the deer died, but
yeah.
But do you know what my biggest complaint is with that situation? Because none of them, like, I don't think any of those deer that I've like hit guts on have gone any farther than if I just double lugged them.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't have any regrets
it's like
about the shots.
As long as you get the vitals.
Do you know what I don't like about it?
Probably the cleaning experience.
Exactly. The smell. That's it. That's the only thing. Other than that, I don't care. It's like, if the deer is ethically killed quickly, I don't care. Like if it, you know, you double lung, you nick a gut or whatever, like that doesn't make a difference to me. It's like, now I'm sitting here cleaning a deer, quartering it out, and I'm like, this stinks.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Like I love butchering animals. Like that's one of my
and you're like
favorite
super
things.
weird about that too. Like whenever I get a deer, you're like, yeah, send me pictures of you cleaning it. I'm like, not the grip and grin. You're like, nah.
Yeah. It's like I want one picture of you just like sitting next to it and being like, cool, look at my deer. And then I want like 12 pictures of like, so how'd you cut it up? So that's just how I function. And so that was the whole thing. So we threw that one, got that one, threw it in my truck. I drove it down to the skin and shed and
cleaned it the same way.
Back of my truck. Hung the quarters, left them in the cooler or in the fridge. Had the back straps in one of the coolers that already had ice in it.
Nice.
So I went out there with ice. Boom. Good idea.
Yeah. So it's a confidence thing. When you feel really confident, go out there with ice. But also, like, if you throw warm meat in a warm cooler and then you throw ice on it, it just melts instantly.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But if your cooler's already chilled a little bit, it makes a huge difference.
All I did was throw the back straps and then, like, the neck and stuff like that in the cooler with ice. And then all the quarters I put in that fridge because I was going to go back to the ranch house and do some work anyways. And they're like, are you sure you don't just want to like throw everything in the cooler and blah, blah. And I was like, no. I'm going to use this fridge to chill my meat first.
Yeah.
So then when I like drive down the road, 15 minutes and throw ice on it, the quarters are already cold. Like chilling the meat initially is like most of the energy.
Yeah.
It's like
getting it down from,
I
was going to say 98, but I think deer, their body temperature is probably even warmer than ours.
Yeah.
But getting it down from that point to ice cold.
Yes.
That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. Cause you're like the first 24 hours, you're throwing a lot of bags of ice on that thing when you're, cooler aging a deer.
Yeah.
So it's like ice. And you just like, and the next morning you go, ice, meaty. Yeah.
Oh, that was just bad.
No.
Anyway.
So, yeah, you're buying a bunch of ice the first 24 hours. And then after that, once everything's down, in the 30s in that cooler, then it's like, you're not you're not going crazy on it. It's like once a day or every other day. No big deal. So yeah, chop those up. Oh, that morning I forgot. As we were like walking out the door, I had like walked out to the truck in my like Walmart brand Crocs, grabbed my boots, my knee-high boots that I always use, pulled them out of the back of the truck, walked back over, set them next to the front door, walked back in to grab some coffee, walked back out, like probably 3 or 4 minutes later, and there was a giant rattlesnake next to my boots.
Holy smokes.
And I was like, I was just out there in my Crocs like 3 minutes ago, and somehow that sucker was right next to my rubber boots. Yeah. And
dude, somehow I've never really... Well, I saw one rattlesnake years ago when I was hiking, but I've never had a serious snake encounter, and you've had multiple.
Yeah, I've had 2 now. There was 2 of them out there while I was out there. They had another one. When I was hunting, they were back up at the house, and they found a baby one that they killed. But yeah, this one came up, and so...
Did you kill it? Or
the property owner walked out there, and he went over, and he got a hoe and his shotgun. Got 20 gauge and a hoe. But, like, it's concrete all the way around there. And so he didn't want to shoot his concrete.
Yeah.
So he gets the hoe, and he's, like, pushing this thing off the concrete. And this thing's just pushing back at him. And he's like, dang, this thing's strong, And he finally, like, gets it off the concrete, pushes it into the gravel, and shoots it. And that sucker rattled until we left.
Dang.
It was like, it was just destroyed. And it was just, he took the hoe and chucked it over the fence. And it was still rattling.
Dang. Well, and I know there's people listening to this who don't like the idea of like killing snakes needlessly, but the idea of like if it's a place where there's people all the time,
poisonous snake that's coming
and
in
like
nest.
a Western diamondback is not something to mess around with.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point where if I leave that thing, and then somebody gets bit by it,
oh, you feel responsible.
I kind of am.
Yep. So I mean, like if you're upset about that and you wanted it relocated or something like that, sorry, but this is how we took care of it. So
dang. Well,
so as
glad he didn't like stomp on it in your Crocs.
I know. So like, luckily he was still like kind of sprawled out coming up to my boots. Because if he was coiled behind my boots and like you wouldn't have seen him or whatever, I wouldn't have seen him. I just walked over to grab him. I was walking out to put my feet in my boots.
Whew.
Yeah. So. That was pretty freaky. That was not the best experience. So, that being said, this week, like as soon as I got home, my thank you gift to the landowner was he was talking about this that day, is I shipped him one of those snake grabber things. That's
it's
like 60 inches long.
It's kind of like one of those like old man grabber
exactly
things,
but it's got like it's like a 90-degree angle on it, and it like goes down flat. It's made for snakes. So I shipped one of those to him, and it showed up today.
Nice.
Right before he went out to the range.
Dude,
so.
good on you for like sending him something as a thank you gift that's practical and safe. That's good. That's
Send him
awesome.
a little note with it. It was like, thanks a lot for the deer. Don't get bit.
Well, good on you for doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what we didn't talk about a lot, well, I guess you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, was antlers. So you've killed these deer, and for cull bucks on a well-managed property, I mean, they're still pretty good bucks.
Yep.
At first, when you sent me a picture of, I guess it's the second deer, I was, I think I was sitting in a stand, messing around with my phone, which I probably shouldn't have been doing, but it was still hot and I was bored and not seeing anything. And I'm like, that was a cull buck? Like, because I saw the side that was up when you found him, and I'm like, this looks like a young deer that would have been a mainframe 10. Why was that a cull buck? I just wanted to know the philosophy of the landowner or of the management ideology, I guess. And then you're like, oh no, wait, and you flipped him over, and then the other side like looked like a banana.
Exactly.
Like,
yes, that is the best definition of that one, is a banana.
The banana buck.
Yes, the banana buck.
It's just this like droopy, curly, like
no joke,
thick.
One side of it is 5 points that are like as typical as you can get. And it was a 2.5-year-old deer, so it was like this is like, look at the potential in that rack.
And that's all I saw at first.
And it if that's what you look at, you're like, you're an idiot. Why'd you shoot that? Like, it would be the worst deer to shoot.
Yeah.
If that was both sides.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So, and then the other one, it was like, when you look at it for being a 4.5, it was a cull buck.
Yeah.
Compared
he
to,
was wide, but weird
that's
and
what I
crab claws.
Yeah, he said is his next definition of it. He goes, it's the widest rack you'll see out there on that feeder.
Yeah,
it's like not on the property, but like on that feeder, it's the widest one you'll see, and it's got crab claws on the end, and it's like crab claws back to these like, what are they, G2s? I don't even know the name of these things. But then there's like pretty much no G3s.
Yeah,
and then it's
twos,
brow
and then
tines.
threes forward.
Okay.
So brow tines are G1s, I guess.
Gotcha.
And then twos.
So it's
threes.
missing the twos. Or no.
No,
so
he had twos.
So the threes would be the first one on the top of the crab claw?
Correct.
Okay.
So a 6-point has twos.
Okay.
An 8-point has twos and threes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So had nice brow tines.
Yeah.
Had G2s that were like not great. And then the G3s were crab claws.
Yeah.
So somebody that understands antlers better than I do. That's a better description of it.
One, he was he was wide, but in this weird, like, kind of oval, curvy shape.
Yes, yeah.
Not
so
a typical.
He's cool. I like him. As in, like, if somebody's like, hey, you want to just come shoot a buck? I'm like, that's a cool buck to shoot.
Yeah,
like,
dude, I would have.
If you didn't take somebody up on that offer, I'd be like, what kind of hunter are you?
Yeah. I shot a coal buck that was way less cool than that one. Yeah. And ultimately, like, I think that proves the point of it's all relative. Like, you see these people on Facebook and are like, shoot or not, or what's the score? And it's like, dude, you can't even, like, deer from West Texas look totally different than deer from Michigan or upstate New York
or Kansas
or even like North Texas versus South Texas. They look way different.
Yeah, they do.
And so you can't, like, it's all relative. And so even on that property,
even one ranch to the next. Shoot, we've got two places that I've sat and hunted that are 20 miles apart, and they're worlds apart. Yeah, worlds apart, and that's mostly management, but they're worlds apart. Like, and you look at the deer a completely different way.
And so it got I guess it gets down to, like, that buck versus the ones he was running with. Yep. He was competing with them, and he was the worst one. So get him out.
Yeah, for sure. And
that's a great management strategy.
And it's working so well. If you see the deer on the wall at this guy's ranch, and it's a low fence ranch, there's, like, he's not bringing in, deer from somewhere else.
Genetics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't have tattooed deer. And he's just managing it well. He's, take out the worst ones and then take out the best ones for your wall, and that's it. So everything else gets left.
So you skull cap that second buck. I'm looking at him over on the counter.
Yep.
And then the other one.
I boil. Well, Mario fleshed him out a little bit. I boiled him for about 2 hours.
Dude, that's a good friend too, who will flesh out your deer skull. Like, just cuz.
Oh, by the way, as he's fleshing him out, he cuts the tongue out from the bottom, takes it home, and we ate tacos the next day.
So we ate heart tonight.
Yes, I had.
And I'm a heart eater. You're a heart eater.
Yes.
But how's the tongue?
The tongue was good. So here's the thing. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So, like, Mario boiled it in beef broth. You peel it, and then he cooked it down again, chopped it up, fried it up with seasoning, and then put it in a taco. So do you know what it tastes like?
Taco.
A taco. It was a really good taco, but it tastes like a taco.
I was going to say, at that point, I imagine it's all the same, but, like, just the idea of a tongue seems a little intimate.
So Paige, my wife, had to, like, the whole time she was eating it, she's like, "Oh, this is so good," but stop talking, because Mario and I were talking about
it was a tongue.
Yeah, okay. But she was like trying to convince herself it wasn't one. Exactly, because she enjoyed eating it, but she didn't enjoy thinking the fact.
But dude, that was tongue. like buffalo tongue. Like they killed buffalo like straight up for their tongue and hide.
Dang.
And then it's a sad thing of American history,
Well,
like how many buffalo were killed for their tongue. And so like it seems super weird to our modern culture because you don't see it in a grocery store, honestly.
Yep.
But I kind of get it.
Yeah, but a whitetail tongue, come to find out, it's small.
Yeah.
It's very small. By the time, so Mario was like, I boiled it, I peeled it, I got down to the meat.
And it's all gone.
Yeah. And he was like, if I really packed a taco with meat like I usually do, it would have been one taco. A whole tongue for one little street taco of meat. And so he was like we did it on principle of like, we're going to eat this tongue because it's a tongue, you know? And it's like, we've never done this before with a deer. But we were like, if we don't have 3 of them, we're not doing this again.
Nice.
Like, or more. You know, it's like, we're gonna cut them out, wash them and put them and vacuum seal them. And when we get enough of them to like boil them and actually do like tongue tacos for like more than one taco, that's when we'll do it.
Nice.
So that's the plan for the next time. So plan is keep the heart on every deer possible this year. So obviously if you blast the heart out with your 270, we're not going to keep that. Cut the tongue out also when possible. So I took the heart out of the second deer. I didn't take the heart out of the first deer, but I didn't take the tongue out of the second deer because there was stomach bile coming out of its mouth. And I was like, I'm not eating that tongue.
Yeah.
Because that was the one that I hit the guts on.
Yeah.
So skip. And that was the one that I also skipped the inside tenderloins because there was stomach bile up in that cavity.
Yeah.
So I was like,
that's a good call.
Yep. And inside tenderloins, if you know anything about whitetail inside tenderloins, they seem to absorb a lot of things because their muscles are so loose and just like very tender.
And it's just like a thin membrane between that and the innards.
Yes.
And so it's like they can be great if they're clean and uncontaminated.
Yep, exactly.
I think it's the first thing to spoil.
Yeah, it's so easy to get contaminated. So I was like, nah, not doing that. We'll pass.
I think that's a good call. And it's not... And I actually appreciate that the state of Texas, basically in terms of what you're required to take, you're required to take 4 quarters and 2 back straps.
Yeah.
You're not required to take the tenders.
Yes.
Even though the tenders can be so good, debatably the best part of meat.
Yes.
But they can also spoil really quick.
Yep. You got to get them and treat them right.
Neck meat, rib meat, that's all like debatable with it, whether it's worth it depending on the deer.
Yeah. So Friday night deer, big old 4.5-year-old buck. Big old neck roast. Got those. Amazing taco meat. That's some of my favorite.
Did you keep it intact as a neck roast? Or?
I didn't keep the bone. So I fillet it off.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But I know some guys, like my dad used to keep it with...
saw through the neck, both sides.
Yeah, but I'm not a big fan of like keeping spinal
tissue. You keep all the veins and stuff in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there's a lot of flavor in the vertebrae.
Oh, and there's a lot of connective tissue that, like, if you throw it in a slow cooker, it kind of melts down.
Yeah. So it would probably taste better because I do it. I use it for tacos. Like,
and I used it for a pot roast on that fallow buck.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I do the same thing. We just enjoy. We do tacos like venison tacos like once a week. Yeah. Pot roast is like, meh. It's not our favorite thing. It's like it's okay.
You've almost said tacos on this podcast as many times as you've said deer.
Almost. So
they're synonymous.
Tacos. But I like tacos. I don't know. Who doesn't like tacos? How many more times can I say tacos?
For a Midwesterner, I can't criticize you at all. You've done well, my boy.
Here's the thing. No, I ate tacos once a week up in Michigan too. But they were not tacos.
But did you?
They were not tacos. If you think of those like horrible non-Mexican Taco Bell tacos, that's what we were making in Michigan.
And Mario was like, "No, let me show you how to do this right."
Yes. I've been taught the ways of making real tacos.
Dude, that's awesome.
Slow cooked meat, shredded, and then from there, do what you got to do, but. Yeah, I'll still make, ground meat tacos for whatever. They're good. I'm fine with that, but they're not real tacos.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm fine with them. I'll eat them whatever, but yeah. So, anyways.
Well, dude, in one weekend, you went from a guy who had shot an arrow at a hog and then didn't find it.
Yeah.
to a guy who's now killed 2 bucks with his bow
in 24 hours.
Yeah. And so where does it go from here?
Yeah, exactly.
So are you, I mean, we have one hunt that is for sure a bow hunt. Yeah. It's a whitetail and or nilgai. It's a whitetail hunt, but you can shoot a nilgai if you see one. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But aside from that, are you going to keep bow hunting? Are you going to move on to the rifle? I mean, I guess we got 2 weeks of bow left.
Yeah. So it'll be, for me, will be an opportunistic thing, which I think I always say. So if we go out to where we usually hunt, I'm going to have both during gun season. And we have one spot that's pretty much just set up for bow. And if it's ideal for that, and like that's where I end up, then I'll bow hunt.
Because your odds don't really change. It's just
exactly. Well, I mean, if I blast something at 25 yards with my 270, I'm like insanely confident with that. Where if I shoot something,
your odds of something coming in within the same distance don't change.
No, yeah. Deer wise, does not change at all. But if I carried my 270 in there, I would probably knock it down right there.
But we have some other spots where I struggled with a bow.
Where
with a gun, it'd just be okay. Back up the truck, boy.
We need to. Because I mean, I would like to get some more meat. Like I'm a meat hunter. I've got a couple more doe tags that I really want to fill. So I'm gonna bring the gun with me.
Well, hopefully we can get you a nilgai so you can shut up about that, and you'll have more meat than you know what to do with.
Yes, if we can get a nilgai, then I think we'll all be set. So I think your freezer's pretty full right now, so we can split some there. You can fill top yours off, and then
mine's not really actually.
Really, with that fallow?
Because I've been eating. I probably eat deer meat almost every day.
Okay.
Nice. Not every day, but almost every day, and a lot of times it's just like a couple sausages for lunch and stuff like that. And then I've given away a lot. So my sisters were both in town. One lives in Nashville, the other in Colorado, and neither of them hunt, but they appreciate it. Yeah. And I appreciate that they appreciate it.
Yeah, they're going to eat meat. They like to eat
clean, wild, organic.
Wild meat that their brother got. That's awesome.
And so, and I think that's a cool thing, like about meat hunting, is whether it's for you or somebody else, like you share the success. I mean, for you, like it's your family, and they appreciate it, and they say, "Daddy, did you shoot it?"
Yeah. Well, it's my family and my neighbors.
But it's like, so this could be a whole nother podcast that we probably need to get into. It would be almost like the ministry of meat, just like sharing that success, because it's something that humans have done since before there was written language. We've shared meat. But that's pretty cool. But all that to say, in one weekend, $2 down, and you've been cooler aging them, and you're going to process them tomorrow.
Starting the process tomorrow. So there may be a couple of hindquarters that stay another day.
There you go.
So we'll do those Sunday.
Yeah.
But
break it up into chunks. And
back straps, going to get vacuum sealed tomorrow, 100%. That will happen.
Nice.
And then everything else we're going to start to get creative. We're going to see if we can make some sausage, things, stuff like that. We'll see what we can do with it. So
nice.
Front shoulders, my favorite saying, as opposed to the
what other shoulders?
Back shoulders.
Well, congrats, dude. What an awesome success. $2 down in a weekend. You still got a buck tag left. You got 2 more doe tags. It's been a great start to whitetail season.
Yes, it has. Definitely knocked some things off my goal list.
Yeah, buddy.
For sure.
Well, and to everybody listening, I hope this was a fun one to you. Again, this is just sometimes it's topical, sometimes it's just rambling, but this is just a good opportunity to share hunting stories. So I hope it's fun. If you're getting out in the woods, I wish you success. Hope you can shoot them up like Kyle just did.
Yep.
Until next time, stay safe, be free, and never stop seeking adventure.
Never, ever.